we will make. We're going to follow the exact same process in creating our Google Doc. So we go to the folder in Google Drive that we want to use. We click on the new icon, and then we create our Google Doc. You simply click on it, and it will open up Google Docs. Now, I've just prepared some generic text for us that we can use. Please bear in mind, I was an English teacher, so all of the generic things that I use tend to be English. Right, so here we have an example of just text on a document, which is not a very exciting thing to look at. So we want to make it a little bit more interesting for our learners, of course. Now we need to start playing around with what with our document itself. So the first thing I'd like to point you to is we've got this thing called the document outline that is created automatically. At this point in time, the document outline is not useful at all. It's just there. What the document outline does is a document outline creates essentially an automatic index to your document. So when you're going to do this, the best idea is to make sure that you're using the font styles here. So we're going to select the first thing we want is we want to create the title for this thing, Othello, some basics to keep in mind. Right, so we're going to select that, and we're going to make sure that it is our title. Now, if you don't like this, you can change the font style, of course. So let's say we do not want to use Arial. We would rather use this font, Righteous, and we want to make sure that it is in a dark blue. Right, so you can still change the font size as long as it knows that it is now a title. Because the minute we've done that, our document outline has this title, has this already included in the index. So now our first header that we want to look at, we're going to use heading 1 for this one. But we don't like this font style. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back. We're going to select the same font style that we used up there. We're just going to make it black in this instance. I think we're going to make it a little bit smaller. It's a bit too big for us. So let's just make it 14. And now an important element that you can add, if you select heading 1, you'll see there's an arrow. And now you say update heading 1 to match. So the minute you do that, when I get to my next heading, which is just Iago is just plain evil, and I want to change this, and I select heading 1, you'll see I've changed heading 1's format. So you don't need to go and change it all the time. And you also know that your headings are all going to look the same. There's not going to be a whole bunch of confusion in that, right? Please note the red lines that you see in my Google Doc, there's an add-on that calls itself Grammarly that works very well to add to check your language, make sure that you're not making mistakes. It's a little bit more detailed sometimes than even Word spell checker. So have a look at it. It works quite well. Iago is just plain evil. How does Iago go about destroying Othello? Now we're going to take this one. We'll turn it into heading 1. Okay, now we've got some smaller ones over here. We want to make sure this one is now heading 2. But heading 2 is not going to work at all when we look at the formatting. So let's just use something like this, and we make it a lot smaller. And we want to make it bold. And again, remember, update heading 2 to match. So let's just quickly change all of them. Right, so we've changed all of them. Just adding these things here quickly. I want to remove that. Yeah, as you see, little commas and things that are missing. Right, so what is now useful is what we started off with was just blank text. Now we've added a little bit more to it. And if we click on document outline, it automatically creates navigation for me. So if I click on Iago is just plain evil, it goes there. How does Iago go about it? We can move around in our document very easily in order to navigate what is happening. And the same feature will appear on a mobile device as well. it's a very useful way of being able to browse through a document in this way. Now, what's also useful is naturally we can add certain links to it. So let's say, for example, we want to start off here. We're going to select Cassio's name, and we want to create a link. What's quite nice is Google automatically, in this case it didn't, but Google automatically finds suggested links that you can add, right? So if we click on Find More, it gives us certain things we can add to the things we can add about these characters. Now, this is a very useful little tool if learners are on a desktop. It doesn't work that well on a mobile device, but if I right-click on different elements within a text here. So let's say, for example, we want to find out more about promotion. And I right-click, I've got an option where it says define promotion. So I can click on that, and it'll go into a dictionary, and it'll give me a definition of promotion. So this is a very useful tool for a learner, but I can also go and I can say explore promotion. So here we've got a whole bunch of links that we can now insert in different ways that we want to, but we can also quickly add images. So I know promotion is not relevant here, so let's rather select, we're going to select Othello. We're going to explore Othello's images because we want to make our presentation a little bit more interesting. We're going to add, let's add this image. Right, so here we go. Automatically, we've got the image added to our text. It's as simple as that. We didn't even have to find any other place to go look for it. I'm going to just make sure, because obviously we want to make sure this is just moved a little bit in a slightly different way. One thing that I will say for Google Docs, the learning curve of how to use, how to insert images takes a little bit longer if you're used to using Word. The same with Google Docs as with Word. It's very useful to just simply copy and paste your Word documents into Google Drive and automatically convert it. So now we're just going to make the margin a little bit bigger.
There was no sound for a moment. There was no sound for a moment.
Am I still coming through now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Just to repeat quickly, one of the useful things, we can simply move a Word document into Google Drive and convert it to a Google Doc document instantly. The useful thing about it is it's less resource intensive than a Word document. In other words, it's going to use less data from your learners who are trying to access your documents if we are sharing Google Docs rather than Word documents. Right, so here I've got an image of Othello inserted just to make my whole thing a little bit more interesting. One of the other things that people sometimes struggle with quite a bit in Google Docs, you don't have your normal borders that we are used to. How Google Docs does it is you have to use tables. So if we want to create a border around something, we'll just create a table. We'll select the content, and we'll insert it into this table. Right, so now the content is in the table. And the minute that I do that, because I'm using a table, I can now add certain elements to the table. So I can change the color of the table. We want to make this one green, and we want to add certain things to that as well. Right, now one of the other very useful features, oh yes, I forgot to say, we can also, the same thing that we did with Google Slides, we can create links. Now this is the HyperDoc that we are talking about, when we add hyperlinks to certain files. So if I have this file, Iago is just evil, and I say insert link, I can now paste any link that I want. And I can also make it link to different headings within my text. So I can, because I've created headings, I've used my styles to create headings. The minute I create this, I want to insert this link, I now link to different headings within my document. What becomes very powerful once you start playing around with it a little bit more is when we say, for example, and I know these two are not linked in any way, we're going to get a shareable link from Romeo and Juliet. We want to make sure this one is sharing is activated. So it says link copied to the clipboard. Now I can insert my link, and this one will link to one of my other Google documents that I've created as well. So in this way, we can essentially put all of our content online and create links between our content. Some people like to create index files, a Google Doc that's an index file that takes you to different files that you've created. So, and one of the reasons why that works so well, and this is the last feature of Google Docs that I want to really focus on. Another thing that I've just thought of that sometimes confuses people a little bit when you've never worked in these things, there is no save button in Google Docs or in Google Slides. You have to be connected to the internet. If you're not connected to the internet, it will save everything in your browser, and the minute that you do go online, it will save the changes that you've made. So you can continue editing if your interconnection drops. Then the minute that you do have access again, it will automatically update everything that's happening. Right, now one of the features that I like most about Google Docs is the option to publish. Right, so when we click on File, we can say Publish to the web. Right, when we publish to the web, what essentially happens is the document that we've created now becomes a mini website, especially if we've inserted a lot of links into the website. So in other words, without having any knowledge or any idea of how to build websites, as long as you know how to create Word documents and then link these Word documents, you can create your own little website of content that you're creating. So if we say publish, we're going to publish this document now. I get given a link. And then if we look at the published content and settings, there's an option here that says automatically republish when changes are made. So in other words, every time that you go and make changes to your Word document, the website version of what you've created gets updated as well. And of course, because it's a website that you're building, it is specifically optimized to view very well on any device, regardless of the screen size. So we've published our document. I just want to show you quickly what it looks like. So if I open up a new tab, and now I'm going to send this link to people. Now, if you look at the link that we are sending, this is a very, very long link. Last week, we looked at using bit.lys, so it becomes quite a useful thing to use. Simple as that. There we go. There's our website, and we can scroll, and we can find the information that we want. If you play around with it a little bit more, obviously, this one is not particularly a particularly well-styled one yet. We can automatically navigate around it. One of the unfortunate things is when you publish the document, you automatically lose this outline navigation feature of this document. Remember, if you're going to share it with people, share the link in view-only mode, they will not have this entire top ribbon. They'll see less of that, so they will see more of a document. It will look like something they can edit, but they obviously can't. And this outline tool is a very useful way of navigating within a document. So if you combine let me just stop presenting here for a second. So essentially what can happen if you start combining Google Slides as a presentation tool, because Google Slides will automatically, the way it is designed, whatever it is that you're going to present will look better. Once you start using that and you start combining it with Google Docs and the publishing feature of Google Docs and this hyperlinking feature of Google Docs, what you can essentially create is you'll be able to create a system where you are able to create a self-learning platform. Remember, this is something that we are trying to look at. How do we support our learners remotely when we are not able to be there? And while video is a great tool to use, unfortunately, video is a very bandwidth-intensive solution. So any video that you're going to create will use a lot of bandwidth. In this way, we're trying to create a system where learners are able to navigate content on their own without us necessarily having to be there to tell them where to go. And through this, they can then upskill themselves. Obviously, we'll look at other things that we can also include in that. Later on, you'll learn how to make quizzes. You'll learn how to make different bits of formative assessment that we can use. We can add a variety of content. The key thing is to start thinking about how do we create online content and not just content that is moving from one computer to the next computer. Because the great thing with online content, it's easier to distribute online content. It's easier to change the online content, and it's also much easier to share the online content amongst our colleagues as well.